And again, welcome and thanks for your interest in doing this. Google Classroom, and if you use other learning management systems, this will probably shape. It will probably give you a little bit of guidance too in terms of how you might want to use those. If you end up using something like Canvas or Schoology or something like that, then some of the things that we talk about today should apply. So just a couple things just to kind of get us, just to get us grounded a little bit. First of all, if nothing else, if you want to use Google Classroom and you get familiar with these two resources, they are from Google, so they're meant to help people in terms of using this particular platform. So, even if nothing else, just knowing how to find these might be worth the time that you spend on this particular webinar. So there are basically two resources. The first one is one that shows basically like YouTube videos. So it's actually demonstration of how to do different tasks with Google Classroom. And that is this particular video here. It's the Teacher Center. Welcome to your first day of Classroom. And as you can see, it has different videos that you can watch, kind of a general sort of couple general videos, and then a teacher's lounge, things that are specific tasks that you might want to do. And you can actually see somebody doing those things, how to create a new class, how to create assignments, how to add students, things like that. And then the other site is similar, except that it's text-based. So this is more, again, sign in and set up a classroom. So if you click this drop down, then you can actually get like more written instructions in terms of how to do different tasks within Google Classroom. So that's something that, so I included the links on this PowerPoint. And then if you're anxious to do it before you get a chance to see the links, so you don't have to copy down these links, if you just do a search for either Google Classroom, Welcome to Your First Classroom, or Google Classroom Help Center for Teachers. Just do a Google search for whichever one you're interested in. That should take you to the appropriate web page. And then as you're working through things, if you kind of run into any trouble, forget how to do something, then that's your guide to do those things. So like I said, first and foremost, you can certainly email me with any questions you have. Sometimes I'm very responsive. Sometimes it takes a couple of days for me to get back to people. So, this is your more just-in-time type of help. So I just wanted to share those with everybody. Also, as most of you probably know, I do office hours on Tuesdays at noon. Same link as this webinar. So if you are running into trouble and you want to ask me a question, you can always just pop into my office hours and ask away, and we can kind of look at things together. Just a couple other things just to get everybody up to speed on. Just a couple general comments about Google Classroom. If you've heard the term learning management system, that's Google Classroom as an example of this. Like I mentioned earlier, there are also Canvas, Schoology, there are other Moodle are some of the more common learning management systems. And basically, it's kind of like a blank canvas. So there's not actually content in Google Classroom. It's more like a blank space that you can add content and you can organize that. So as a teacher or administrator or a program, you actually provide the content, and then you can structure it how you want for your learners to be able to work with. Another important thing to keep in mind, some learning management systems do track time. They're not really built to do that. Most of the learning management systems are more about organizing content for students to complete. So you'll see some of the features on here will be about grading and like an overall grade. Obviously, a lot of K through 12, post-secondary institutions use Google Classroom and other learning management systems. So they're more about completion than they are about measuring time. So these are not things that you're going to use in order to report time. They're things that you're going to use that you can organize the things that your students work on. So they also provide the ability, so basically one of the benefits is it allows you to use multiple resources in an organized manner. So for example, if all you're thinking about doing is having your students work in Khan Academy or Aztec or USA Learns or Burlington English or something like that, you probably don't really need to use a learning management system because everything's there on those particular sites for your students. But if you, let's say, I know a lot of people use Khan Academy. So if you want your students to do Khan Academy, but then you have worksheets that you want them to work on and you want them to access, another Bill Schaefer's Math Emporium site or something like that, then it's a way that you can merge all of those resources together into one place so that it's easy for your students and you can organize what your students are doing. The other thing you can do is you can assign work within Google Classroom or within another learning management system and collect work and then provide feedback to your students just on that particular site. And then the other just general thing to keep in mind is Google Classroom, not surprisingly, is a Google product. So it uses some of the other Google products. So for example, if you've ever used Google Forms as a way to survey your students, you can generate quizzes through Google Forms and then they are rolled into your Google Classroom as an assignment for your students through Google Classroom. I played around a little bit with possible writing assignments, and your students can actually use Google Drive to do like basically a Word document on Google Drive, and then they submit it through Google Classroom so you can see it that way, score it, and things like that. So we'll look at that. But if you are familiar with Google products and you've used things like Google Docs, Google Drive, things like that, you're going to see a lot of familiar concepts working with Google Classroom. The last thing I'll say about it being a Google product, your students do not have to have a Gmail account, but it will, when you invite them, if they have a Gmail account, it will prompt them to set up their account through their Gmail account. If they don't have a Gmail account, it will ask them if they want a Gmail account. And they kind of have to work around it a little bit to be able to use their actual email address to set up their account. But just a couple things to kind of keep in mind with that. And then just the last thing, this is going to be a very basic webinar. There can be a lot of depth to working with Google Classroom. What I'd like to do today is just get you set up so that you can start working with it and start organizing content for your learners. So we'll talk about creating classes and kind of getting students into those classes so that they can do the work that you set up for them. We'll talk about how you create assignments. I'll show you a little bit what it looks like from the student's perspective, just so that you can anticipate questions that your students might have. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you can provide feedback to your students through Google Classroom. If there's time and interest, we can certainly, people want to ask questions, certainly do so on the fly. But, if you're interested in more advanced things, we can kind of talk about those things if there's time, or we can set up another time to do something that's a little more advanced. And lastly, if you have questions, my name's Chuck Klinger. There's my email address. My coworker, Bethany Lazanik, I don't believe she's on the webinar today, but she's also somebody who's out there to help you, so you can certainly contact her with questions as well. So I'll put this up at the end of the session too, so if you didn't quite get a chance to write my email address down, if you don't have it, then you'll see it at the end and remind me if I forget to put it back up. But let's take a look at Google Classroom and get started with this. So this is basically what it looks like. Very, very no frills. It's similar to probably some of the other Google things that you may have seen. And I've already set up 2 classes. So by the way, I should say that I do have my work email is through like a Gmail account or through like a Google Suite account. If you need to set up your account, that's on one of the help videos that I showed you. But this C right here is kind of what shows my Google account. So, you know, that's kind of how everything's set up. So I'm signed in right now to Google Classroom. That means I'm automatically signed into Google Docs, Google Drive, my Gmail account, all that sort of thing is all is kind of logged in together. If I close this and come back in, it will automatically take me back into the last Google account that I signed in with. So if once your students are in, they don't have to worry about logging in every time. You know, as soon as they open this up, then they should see what they have. Okay, so with that said, let's assume that you have your account. Let's say that you don't have a class set up yet. Anything that you want to do within Google Classroom, you're going to want to look for this plus sign right here. Okay, most of any time that you want to add something new, you're usually going to want to look for a plus sign. So as you can see, right now I'm in the classroom. I'm just looking at all of my classes. So when I hit this plus, it's going to say that I can either create or join a class. So if I click on this, then if I wanted to join a class, then I could do that. If I want to create a class, which is what we kind of want to talk about here, then I would just hit create class. And you're probably mainly just going to want to use a class name. Now, again, this is something that could be, you know, a school might use it. So it could be like Mr. Klinger's first period Algebra 1 class in room whatever. So it has all these other things that are optional, but you probably just want to put whatever class name you want. You could just have a math class. You could have language arts. You know, obviously it could be, you know, Cindy's, you know, math class, whatever you want to call it, obviously you can call it. I was actually just talking with a teacher this morning who set up different levels of math as different classes. So like there's math 1, math 2, math 3, algebra, geometry, things like that. So whatever you want to call it. So we'll just call it science since I don't have a science class. And hit create. Okay, and it's a little bit slow right now. And there's my science class. So that's all that I had to do to create a class. So it's very, very simple to do. Now, once you're in a class, just a couple things to keep in mind. Notice now I have all of these choices across the top. Stream, for those of you that use Facebook or other types of social media, that's basically what that view is it's just going to kind of show you the flow of what's happening in your class. Students, like a notification that a student completed an assignment, a notification that a student posted a question, notification that a student made a comment, notification that you assigned something. So that's kind of what the stream is. So that's kind of, that's usually almost like what your home page is. Classwork right here is where I'm going to go whenever I want to assign things. And again, when I hit classwork, there's nothing there to see right now, but notice it gives me the opportunity to create. Notice how it has this plus sign. So that's how I go about assigning classwork. So we'll look at that here in just a minute. Notice too, I can look at my Google Calendar so I can see what I have due on different dates. Whenever you create an assignment, you can put a due date on it for your students. And I can also create a class drive that will be basically like a Google Drive folder that's specific to this particular class that I have. Now, I don't have any students, so obviously one of the first things that I'll want to do is get my students going with it. And similar to other products that you might see or other sites, there's a class code. So one thing I can do is I can just send this class code to all of my students. Okay, right here. And if they already have Google Classroom accounts, then, or even if they don't, they can create a Google Classroom account and they can enter the code. So that's, you know, that's one way that you can do it. If your students are pretty good at working with, you know, with technology and with websites and things, most of them can probably figure that out with a little bit of instruction. If I want to, I can just simply invite students. So I can hit, again, plus means that I'm going to add something. So I'm going to invite students, and I can just simply type their email. So I could type in like, you know, these are people who are in my contact list. So as soon as I hit R, so then it's going to, so I could just invite this guy, and let's say I want to invite somebody else. I could invite this person, and just keep typing in names for all of your students. Again, I could type in their email addresses, or I can just work off of my address book. If I hit this invite, and I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to invite these people, but if I wanted to invite them, then if I click on this invite, a message will go out to their email address with instructions for them to join your class. All right? So it's fairly straightforward. So it's two different ways you can add students. Did somebody have a question? Okay. All right. So basically, that's kind of how we look at inviting students. Now, just so that you can kind of see this, in my math class, if I look at people, I have actually, and Chuck Klinger's the teacher, then my alter ego Charles Klinger is the student. So you can also see what your class roster looks like. As students do work, if I click on grades, that will be sort of like a grade book. So here I can see for this class, I've made 3 assignments. And let me try to get the, all right, Marty, would you be able to turn off your webcam?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, not that I don't want to see it. It just it shows up whenever on the recording. So okay, cool. Thanks, Marty.
Okay.
So, you can see these are the assignments, and I can see, some assignments might just have a check if it's something that the student, if it's just a pass-fail sort of a thing. If it's a quiz or something like that that shows a score, then I can see that. So, but let's look at what the class, let's look at some assignments. So when I hit create, so if I want to assign something, one of the first things that's going to happen is it's going to tell me, what do I want to create? And I have the choices. I can create an assignment. I can create a quiz as an assignment. I can just post like a discussion question. I can insert material. And then if it's something that I've already used, maybe in a different class, and I want to repeat it in this class, then I can do that, then I can just simply reuse a post. And then the other thing, and this is something that's going to help you to organize things, is I can just simply create a topic. So within your class, this allows you to kind of add layers. So instead of just having a class with all these random assignments, I can just simply create a topic. And as you can see in this particular class, I've already created 2 topics. I have geometry, and then as you can see, I have some assignments under geometry, and I have addition and subtraction. So, so that's how you work with that. So I would recommend, as you add more and more assignments, to organize them through topics, and that way your students can kind of navigate through the material. I think that there was a question that came up with the chat. Okay, so I did have a question from somebody that asked, if they enter themselves as a student, do you need to use a different email address than the one used as a teacher? That's a good question, especially if you kind of want to play around with it a little bit, or make sure that you see things as a student. I use 2 separate email addresses. Actually, I created a separate Gmail account, just like a new Gmail account for my student, and used my work email address as my teacher account. Another nice thing about Google is that, you can create as many emails as you want, as long as you have like, cklinger72653@gmail.com or whatever. So that's what I did. The one thing that will happen is, as things happen on the site, you'll get email address, you'll get email notifications, and it is something that you can turn off, but that's like within your settings. But yeah, I use separate email addresses, and that way I can log in separately and see them. Okay, yep, and Michelle confirmed that. I know. Yeah, Michelle Campbell there at District 1199C, they've been playing around with this quite a bit, so they have some good expertise with this. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I've created some topics already, and I've created some assignments. And one of the nice things is a question that you want students to answer. You can see how it has like a little bit of a different icon than a document, which is kind of like the paper with a little thing. And then the quiz kind of has the check, so you can kind of organize, so you can kind of visually see what type of an assignment it is for your students. But let's say that I want to add an assignment. So let's just look at the different things we can do. So if I want to do an assignment, I'm going to give it a title. So let's say that I want them to let's say that I want to assign Khan videos to them. Or let's say that your students are working out of a book. Let's say that they're working out of the Kaplan, the Kaplan GED book that everybody has. Then this could be my Kaplan fraction assignment. And then I can put instructions. I don't have to, but in this case, I am going to put instructions in here. And I'm just going to put do work or do pages 250 through 275 in the Kaplan text. And of course I can't spell. There we go. Now, if I want to, I can add a document to this. So see that little paper clip? So if I click on this, if it's something that I already have on Google Drive, then I would click this. If I want to link to a website, I can use this. If I have a file on my computer that I'd like to attach, I can click on this. And also, if I want to find a YouTube video for them to watch that relates to this, then I can click on the YouTube. So basically, with just a general assignment, I can put the title, I can type in instructions, and I can, I can add something to it. Something from Google Drive, something from my computer or smartphone or tablet if you're using that. I can attach a link to it, or I can find a specific YouTube video that I'm interested in. So if I wanted to attach a file, let's say I'll select files from my device, and whatever, if I want to add this article to it, then I can just click on that, upload it, and there's my assignment. So right now, this is what the students are going to see. They're going to see the name of it, they're going to see their instructions, and you'd probably want to include like how you want them to submit it. They can submit it, there's different ways that you can submit it, which we'll get into in a little bit. But so basically, this is just simply an assignment. Notice for the math class that I have, I want to send it to all students. If you want, I could just assign it to 5 of my 10 students in the class. If there's going to be a grade on it, then I could assign points, or I could mark it as ungraded. And that's, I would guess most assignments would be ungraded, but maybe you do want to score things. And this basically allows you to score it within the particular site. This would allow me to score it now within Google Classroom so that I can give information to my students. If I want to attach a due date, then I can just simply pick whatever date I want it to be due. So again, I can organize everything that I want my students to do for the next 2 months, and just by kind of stacking the due dates for different things. Now, you might notice we talked a little bit about topics. Do I want to put it in a topic? Do I not want it in a topic? Do I want to create a topic? So I can either add it to either of these. I can create a new topic on the fly. And just for this, I'm just going to not put a topic. The rubric, if I want to add criteria. So basically, if I want to be able to score this, and this might be something especially for writing assignments that you might want to do, I can add a rubric. So again, if I've already used a rubric, I can use the same rubric over again. If I have something in Google Sheets, that's another Google product, I can import it from there, or I can create my own rubric. So, maybe if I'm doing a writing assignment, maybe I want this to be worth, this is worth 100 points. So maybe I want, grammar to count for 25 points. And then I can add another one. And let's say maybe I want reference to source material. And I want that to be 25 points. And I can add more, and this is number 3, we'll say. And that's going to be 25 points. And number 4, that's going to be 25 points. And then save it. And now when the student completes this assignment, I will be able to go in and not just give them like an overall score, but I can give them the score for each part of the rubric. So I can say, it's 20 out of 25 for this, 20 out of 25 for that, 25 out of, so it really allows you to break down an assignment in terms of how you're going to score it for your students. Hopefully that makes sense. And we'll look at an example of that here in just a little bit that I did. Okay, but anybody have any questions so far?
Chuck, I do.
Oh, yeah.
And Marty, from Northampton Community College, just to remind you and other people that I do a GED class for adults who didn't graduate high school. And I've been using the Khan Academy, which we did a webinar on.
Yep.
And I even printed out the Khan manual, which was like 36 pages. And, when I have a question, we have a go-to person at the college who tries to help us with their, with the technical issues. The one thing I had mentioned to her about the manual, she said that, that manual is not exactly in line with what we are doing for the college. Can you verify or, say that the manual is a little different than what we're doing?
Well, first, Marty, this one's on Google Classroom, so right. I don't really want to take up a lot of time talking about Khan Academy right now.
Okay, well, then let me change it and say, if we are using Khan Academy, is Google Classroom necessary or it's just helping?
Okay, that's a good question. If all you're doing is using Khan Academy, I wouldn't bother with Google Classroom. Then, because you can make assignments to your students within Khan Academy. Where I would use Google Classroom or something else similar to Google Classroom would be if I wanted my students to be doing Khan Academy and I wanted them working out of a textbook and I wanted them working on another website, so basically if I had different things that I wanted them to work on. So, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So okay, like here, when I click on assign, okay, so I have this done. I've worked through my rubric. The originality reports, by the way, that's something that each teacher gets to use so many times for free. I think 3 times for free with the free version of Google Classroom. And then if you have something else, then you can use it more. But basically, it does like a check to make sure that it's not plagiarized. That it's actually original work done by the student. So if I don't think we necessarily use that for adult education. I think it's more something maybe if a college professor is using it, but I just kind of wanted to point out what that is. If I check that, then when a student submits an assignment within this, it's going to show, it's basically going to check and make sure that it's not something that they took from some other source. But once I have this done, and so these are the different things that I can do with it, then I'm just going to go ahead and click Assign. And now within my class, notice I now have this new assignment, the Kaplan fraction assignment. Now, what I realize is, I really wanted this in its own topic. I don't really want it in geometry. I don't want it in addition and subtraction. So what I can do now is I can go back, create a topic. I can call it fractions. I'm going to add that topic. And now I can drag this assignment into fractions. So one of the nice features about Google Classroom, and I haven't noticed this with some of the other learning management systems we've worked with, is you can move things around very easily, like on the fly. So if you want something in a different order, let's say I want geometry before fractions, I can just do that. So once you have the content there, it's pretty easy to move it around. But I would probably go addition and subtraction first, then probably fractions, and then geometry. So, so I can move content around as I have it. Okay. Now to get to Marty's question, so why might I use this instead of just simply using Khan Academy? Like I said, I could put in geometry, I could put a link to a geometry section in Khan Academy that I wanted my students to do. I can have my own quiz in there that I want students to do. I can have a discussion question. So this is just simply a discussion question. So I put, you may use the formula sheet to find the formula, type your response here, comment on other students' responses. What is the formula for area of a rectangle? And then I can see that there were 2 comments here. So myself as the student just wrote multiply the 2 sides together, and then I posted good job. So so basically this allows you to have the students do more than Khan Academy, or more than Aztec, or more than Fast Forward, or whatever your students are working on. It allows you to combine things that they're working on. I've known of teachers who've done this to supplement what they do in the classroom. So, they teach whatever they teach in the class, and then they have additional worksheets in here. They have links to Khan Academy or whatever website. They might have like a chat thing where students can ask questions and share things with each other. That's really why you want to use this sort of a resource, is because you have different things that you want your students to work out of. Okay, so, but yeah, good question. Thanks, Marty. All right, so we saw just kind of putting a general assignment in there. There are some other things that I can do. If I want to do a quiz, okay, then again, I can put my title for it. I can put my instructions for it. Now, I can add, just like I could with any assignment, I could add a, I can add I could add a document. So basically, if I had a paper quiz or a document of a quiz, Word version of a quiz, I could just simply insert that here. I could create something using any of these particular, again, creating something with one of the Google, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, whatever. The other thing that I can do, Google Forms, is if you've ever used SurveyMonkey or anything where you're sending out a survey, Google Forms is kind of similar to that. So basically what this allows me to do is it allows me to use Google Forms to create a quiz. So, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like here in just a minute, because I've already created one. I just want to mention this locked mode on Chromebooks. This is, more if you're worried about students cheating. Now, I've always felt like with our distance learning project, we sometimes feel like students copy answers out of the back of the book or things like that. But we're not, I'm not as worried about students cheating. But if you are, this locked mode on Chromebooks basically means that they can't open up another web page while they're taking a quiz. So it's something you could check, that's up to you. And again, some of the similar things, It's from, you know, who do I want to assign it to? How many points do I want it to be worth? Do I have a due date for it? All these are going to be very similar for anything that you add. Do I want to put it within a topic? And again, if you forget to, you can always do that. You know, you can always do that after the fact, like we looked at before. And then once I have everything set up, I can go ahead and assign it. Now, your quizzes, like I said, now it's going to be in a different Google product. So you notice along my tabs here across the top, this is my Google Classroom. So if I want to create a new form, when I do this, it's opening up now this other tab for something called Google Forms. And I can create my quiz in here. And this is like a template within Google Forms, so it automatically takes you there. So now all that I need to do is, you know, untitled question. So I put in my first question, you know, and maybe I want to make sure that I get their name. So I'm going to just put, what is your name? And notice that's going to be a short answer. I could have it as a short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, drop down. So all these different types of questions that I can have here. But obviously for this one, I want short answer text. So that's what their response is going to be. Do I want this to be part of the answer key? No, I'm not giving them any points for this. I can make it required. So I definitely want to make sure that I capture their name. And then I have that particular question set. Now I think there are a couple of questions in the chat area. Okay, that's a good question. Somebody asked about adding a name and date to the quiz. Somebody asked, is it safe to assume that lock mode will work on other devices other than Chromebooks? I wouldn't assume that. That's something that I want to play around with a little bit. You know, unfortunately, I'm putting these together kind of quickly, so I'm not an expert on Google Classroom, but it is something that I do kind of want to play around with a little bit. So I'm not sure about the answer to that. Now, as far as the name to the quiz, right here where it says blank quiz, I can put a title there. So thanks for asking about that. So I could just say, I'm just going to put test quiz. Sounds like an oxymoron, but anyway, so that's what I have first. Now, I want to add another question. I don't see anything here, but there is this plus sign here. So notice, again, when I want to add something, look for the plus sign, and now I can add another question. And you might notice that it put it in a different order. That's because the last thing I worked on was this test quiz. So if I'm not happy with where it is, I can again drag it down here. And now I can start to get to the questions that I really want to ask, like, you know, is the sky blue? And what kind of a question do I want? I probably want that to be a multiple choice. Option 1 would be yes. Option 2, so I can just simply, that's going to be no. Option 3, maybe. Okay. So now I have this particular question. I have my answers. Now, I also want this to be required, so I'm going to check this as required. And if I want an answer key for this and to assign points, I can click here. So that's basically going to make it so that it's scored automatically, so that I don't have to go in and score it. So I'm just going to click on this answer key. And notice choose correct answer. So it could be more than one answer. And yeah, sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's blue. So I'm just going to put maybe as my answer. And then how many points do I want it to be worth? So basically I can weight my responses to be, you know, so I can have some questions worth more than others. All right. Once I have that set, I'm going to say done. I want to add another question. And let's just look at, just so that you can see what something else looks like. If I wanted a linear scale, excuse me. Now this is something where I can rate something. So I can say, you know, how well do you understand? 1 to 5. 1 means not well. 5 means very well. I want to require this. This one, though, isn't necessarily one that I would want. There's not necessarily going to be a right answer for, so I'm not going to worry about an answer key. So this question is done. So now I can add another question if I want to. Okay. So you can just keep going through and ask, whatever kinds of questions. You could put math problems in here. You could put, you can put like fill in the blank, for like grammar or for English or something like that. So, social studies question, whatever kinds of questions that you want to add here, you have a lot of flexibility to do with. And again, it's one of the nice things about working with a learning management system, but it is work. You have to have the content that you're filling into this to make it work. Okay. So I'm going to see before I move on to see if there are any other questions. Okay, yeah, somebody mentioned about that. I don't believe that it does. Somebody asked about if it tracks the time that it takes students to complete assignments. I haven't noticed that. So that's not necessarily anything that I've seen. So I think that no, you're not really going to get an accurate time portrayal for your students. Basically, it's about putting content for them to work on and seeing what they've done and giving them feedback. Somebody asked a question, are the buttons on the side to add a picture or a video? You can add, it's a good question. You can add, so these buttons along the side, I can import questions. So these are more, I can add an image if I wanted to. Okay, so again, I can upload it from my computer or from the internet, from my camera, from Google Drive. If I have a URL of a photo, of course, you have to be careful of copyright issues. But yeah, so I can insert images. I can insert videos, all different kinds of things. So yeah, that was a good question. Okay. Now, like I said, there's so much that you can do with this, and I'm just trying to give you just a quick overview of some of the possibilities. But does anybody have any questions about this? Okay. Another question came in. Okay, good question. Somebody asked, is there a way to import scores from other websites, such as Khan Academy, into this platform? Not that I've seen so far. It is something that I want to, I know that there is some playability between Google Classroom and Khan Academy. I think most of it that I've seen is importing students. So if you already have an existing Google Classroom, you can get them into your Khan Academy classroom like with the click of a button, basically. I haven't seen anything with scores yet, but it is something that we're gonna play around with a little bit more. And if we find that we can, then I'll make sure to get that information out. I also will say that when we worked with Canvas with our distance learning project, and we used a paid version of it, there was kind of a way that we could embed Khan Academy videos into Canvas. So they wouldn't actually even have to go to Khan Academy. They could actually watch the videos within that platform. But I believe that was only with the paid version. So I don't know that you can do that with something like this. All right, so when I have this quiz ready and I feel like it's the way that I want it to be, I can click this send button, and then it will be sent to, not to the students yet, but it will be sent to my Google Classroom. Okay, so now when I go back to my classroom, I can see again that I have this quiz that was sent, and I can start to work with it. So I'm going to close out of all of this. Okay, so now that I have this, I can put a title. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I have all of these things that are set up for my Google Classroom. All right. Now, some of the other things that you can do, like I said, you can simply post a question, and again, whatever I want my question to be, and then I can type instructions if I want to. Just like everything else, I can add a file. I can create something if I wanted to create like something additional. I can have it be something that is, that I'm awarding points for, or I can have it be something that's ungraded. So if you want to have a discussion, and again, I think this is more of a college type of feature where you're having students post discussions and you're scoring them as part of a grade. So you see a lot of things in here with grades. So you kind of have to be careful with that in terms of working with your students. Do I want a due date with it? Do I want to put it within a topic? So, again, along the right, this is going to be consistent for any type of an assignment that I add. And again, I can create, material. So this is where I'm just simply putting, if you have like worksheets that you want to upload, or articles or things like that, this is a good way to do that. And then you can just title it, put a description, and then it's there for your students. And notice, this isn't anything that's going to be graded. This isn't anything that's going to be scored. There's no rubric. So it's just simply, where do I want to place this material for my students? And then finally, if I have something that I've done before that I want to reuse, then I'm able to do that. Okay. So basically, this is, oops, didn't want to do that. Okay, so basically, I can organize things. So what I can do is I can have all of these topics that I want: addition, subtraction, fractions, geometry. I can add as many topics as I want to organize my content. And then within those topics, I can add documents. I can create quizzes for my students to do. I can, put links in there to other websites. So basically, I can organize all of my work. So everything that I want my students to do related to addition and subtraction, I can add as separate assignments, resources, documents, things like that. Same thing for fractions, same things for geometry. And I can do that for however I want to break my classes down. All right, so I see there's a few more chat things, so let's see what kinds of questions there are. Okay, good. So, okay, somebody asked, if I link material through Newsela, can I track the time through Newsela? Yes, and that's a good question, Sonia. So if you're using, for those of you in Pennsylvania, if you're using an approved resource and you direct students to, so if you direct students to Newsela, to Khan Academy, to Edmentum, to a different site to do work, yes, then the work will be tracked on that particular site. So that is a way that you can use this to make sure that you're getting the time that you want to use. So yeah, good. Thanks, Sonia. Somebody mentioned you can export Khan Academy grades to a CSV, so basically to a spreadsheet, and then possibly import that to Google Classrooms. But otherwise, again, this is somebody who also said that they haven't been able to do that. Okay, can you show how to do the reuse part? So I'll get to that in just a second. Can you attach a quiz or set of questions or writing response to a specific assignment? Yes, so if you have a document of a quiz, like a Word document version of a quiz, or a set of questions, yes, you can attach those to a specific assignment. How to add things to the class drive folder. Okay, so just the two questions then have to do with the reuse and the class drive folder. So basically, if, let's say, I wanted to create something and I want to reuse something that I've already done, okay, whenever I click on this, okay, right now you can see the spinning. It's searching for anything that I might be able to reuse. And I'm guessing, a lot of these sites are operating a little slowly now, so please bear with me for a second. All right, I'm going to come back to this in a second, so I apologize for that. So somebody had asked about the class drive folder. So basically, these two things here, if you use Google Calendar, this will open up your Google Calendar, and this will add, so you can see all the things that I have going on, but this will add then this in pink, this assignment that I have with a due date of tomorrow. And then if I look at next week, there's another assignment that's due. So that's one thing that I can do, is go right to Google Calendar with my Google Classroom assignments listed. And then somebody asked about the class drive folder. So basically now, this is Google Drive. So this is another Google product. And if you've ever worked with like Google Docs or anything like that, then you're probably familiar with this. So this has created a Google Drive that's specific to my math class. So these are some of the different things that I've generated for the math class. And notice if I click back on Classroom, each of my classes has its own Google Drive. So anything that any documents that I've created. Now the language arts class, I'll show you what I did in there in just a second. The science class, I haven't created anything yet, so there's nothing there. But there are 2 math classes that I've worked with. So, again, this is a quick way that I can find any documents that I've used if I would like to reuse them. So that's kind of one way that I can do that. Now, I mentioned about, I'm going to try this reuse one more time. Okay, and I apologize, this is taking so long. Okay, so that's something that if anybody wants to know about, I'll try to do a short video recording of how to do that and send that out. But I would just like you to see a little bit about how that worked with the rubric. So I did with my language arts class, I created a writing assignment and used a rubric for it. And that's this particular assignment right here. And then I did a response to it. So as you can see, one writing assignment was turned in. When I go into my language arts class, I can see this particular writing assignment I had. And that's this assignment right here. So if I click on this assignment, notice 1 turned in. That 0 assigned means nobody's left to turn it in. Like if I had 5 students and 3 turned it in, then it would be 3 turned in and 2 assigned. So, but if I click on this writing assignment, now notice I'm opening up a little bit of a different folder. And as you can see, this is the writing that I did, not very good, but did my best with it. So I could give it an overall grade, or I can work off of my rubric. So I can say, okay, the first thing was referencing the source material, and I want to give that an 8 out of 10. The level of detail is poor, so I'm going to give that a 3 out of 10. Grammar is okay, so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 10. Or 4 out of, oh, that's only worth 5, so I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. And then if I want to say, you did pretty well, but lacked detail. And then I can post that comment, and then that comment will go, notice how it says private comment. That comment will only go to my student. So it's not something that's going to go out that everybody can see. It's just going to go to that specific student. So I can go ahead and post that comment. And then I could add another comment. And notice, what it did was it took my scores of 14, of 8 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 3 out of 5, and it compiled them into a score of 56 out of 100. And notice here it says not returned. If I feel like this is what I definitely want to score it, I can click on return, and it will notify this particular student how I scored it. And they'll be able to see the actual scores that I gave to them. All right, so I thought that for anything involving writing, that would really be helpful. Yeah, students won't have access to your Google Drive files. That's something that will be, that's something that you see, you could share it with other people, anything in your Google Drive, but that's something that's specific to your Google account.
It's
Yes.
Marty again. Question.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes, but one of my students does not have internet, and yet I was told that you can do Khan Academy, and I know this is Google Classroom through her phone, but can Google Classroom be also done that way?
Yes.
Okay, so she doesn't have to have internet, and she can still take part in this.
I mean, she'd have to have a data plan. One of the things with, and this goes with just about anything with the smartphones is, or tablets, is they have to have data or internet that they're connected to. So like there is an app, and some things like USA Learns, you can actually download the content, so you can actually work on it when you don't have internet or data. This is, I don't think this is one that works quite that way.
Okay. And the second question is that, this has been a lot to take in.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, is there any kind of written manual that we can ascertain, that would help us?
Yes. If you go to, these resources are tutorials on using Google Classroom. So if you do a Google search for, I'd probably recommend Google Classroom Help Center for Teachers.
Okay.
And that should take you to this particular website, and that will have how-tos for everything that you would want to do with it.
Okay, great. So again, I'm going to have to leave, but thank you so much for your help.
All right, it's good seeing you again, Marty.
Take care.
Yep. All right, so yeah, like Marty said, and like I said at the beginning, there's so much you can do with this. What I really wanted you to do is to get a sense of what it looks like, and at least how to get started with it, how to add content to it, and also to show you really how easy it is to organize content within it. I was very pleasantly surprised with how easy it is if you put something somewhere and you're not happy with where it is. Just how easy it is to reorganize things. Like let's say I don't want this in addition and subtraction, just drag it and put it wherever you want it. So as you're working on things, it's pretty easy to fix anything that you're not happy with it. All right, now it is about 1 o'clock. This was a pretty fast hour. So like I said, I tried to show you just some of the basics to hopefully get you started with it. So, and I know a couple people asked questions about some things, but does anybody, okay, so somebody wants to add a name and a date to the quiz. So what you can do, there are a couple ways you can do that. One is I can do that within the quiz itself, within Google Forms. Notice how here I titled it Addition and Subtraction Quiz. Okay, I can change the name just by clicking on it and typing. And if I want to put, like, in the form description, I could put a date on it that I want them to, that I created it. I can put instructions. I can put anything on here that I want to. So those are some different ways that you can kind of think about names and dates. Now notice, since this quiz is here, this will also, within Google Forms, this is a place where I can actually see the responses and kind of what they did, correct, incorrect, things like that. Within the site itself, within Google Classroom, I can also change, notice how it kept the addition and subtraction quiz, but if I wanted to edit it, then I could also work on editing it from within here. So like right here, I can edit it as well. All right. Okay, so a few more comments. I just kind of want to check in. Oh, nice. Okay, so somebody mentioned from Northampton, a couple of places that are offering free internet to new subscribers for 30 to 90 days. Actually, I have Service Electric. Maybe, I wonder if I canceled mine, if I could get 90 days for free. Ashley asked a question. Does something have to be graded before the grades tab shows up? Yes. Yes, until something's graded, you're not likely to see the tab. Either it has to be graded or something has to be assigned that will have a grade. But I don't think it shows up until it's graded. Okay, Sonia said, can you use the stream to set up a meeting link, but you have to look at your settings first? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So Sonia's been those folks up in up north have been pretty busy with this, it looks like. So yes, within my settings, notice this gear is going to be how I can look at my settings. With my class details, so this is for my math class. So again, I can change the name of my class if I want to. I can add these kinds of things after the fact. There's my class code. The stream, students can post and comment. Students can only comment. Only teachers can post or comment. So basically, I can have my stream so that I can limit what my students are able to do if I want to. Classwork on the stream, so I can change some things in here, whether I want notifications of classwork or not. Do I want to show attachments and details? So I can, I can kind of customize things how I want to. Only teachers can view deleted items. That's probably something important to keep. And then the other thing is this Meet. This is something, if you've used Google Hangouts, I guess it's like a Google Hangouts on steroids. It's basically kind of like a nice webinar type feature that you can use. So you can actually create a Google Meet link specific for your class by generating this meeting link. Once you do that, you can turn it on. And then if you want to have like meetings, so if you have like your Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. class, you can create a Google Classroom for them. The link to your webinar class will be in Google Classroom that they'll be able to see, that they can access then whenever they want to join it. Yep. Yeah, so if you make it visible, then your students are going to have that meeting link. Yep, good, Sonia. I honestly haven't done a whole lot with, Ginger asked about, can the meetings be recorded? That's something that I've not used Google Meet at all. I use Zoom for everything. So I'm guessing that they can, since I think Google Meet's supposed to be a pretty, it's supposed to be a pretty robust product. Has anybody used Google Meet that could tell the group whether you can record things or not? Oh, okay. Sonia's trying it this afternoon for the first time. Okay, so videos. Okay, so yeah, somebody mentioned videos could be uploaded to Drive. Yeah, so they could be uploaded to the class drive and then shared that way with your students. Okay, good, thanks. All right, so we've been going for a little bit over an hour. I still have time, so I'll be very happy to answer any questions anybody has. If anybody would like to see anything different, this is something that, like I said, and there's so much that you can do with this. So I would encourage you to, experiment with it, try things. Maybe I would encourage you to try to set everything up so that you have a pretty good structure in place before you start inviting students to it. So I wouldn't try to build it while I had students in there. I'd probably try to at least have some good concrete resources and assignments for your students, and then start to invite them. The other thing you can do is you can create content, and you can use that with Google Drive or other types of things, and then post it once it's ready or once you feel more confident with it. Oh, okay, thanks, Chrissy. So Chrissy, no relation. Chrissy posted something, a link that shows how you can record the live Google Meet. So thanks, Chrissy. All right, so like I said, I'm going to stop recording now, but I will